Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm your co-host, Dayspring.
And I am your co-host, Nicholas from Nicksaysboo.
And I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
And I'm Nick G. And we're here to discuss Angel Season 2, Episode 2, Are You Now or Have You Ever Been?
Ooh.
Yay.
So
excited.
both Nicks, you requested this episode. Both of you were like, wait, can I be on for that episode? So I want you both to Nick G, you can go first. Say what it is about this episode, because it is one of your top Angel episodes, right?
It is, but because I have very complicated feelings about it.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I think I love it because I love LA Noir.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode is just chock full of little hints, and nods to that genre. But I have really complicated feelings about race, y'all. And this episode is just one giant metaphor that's like, did you get it?
Yes, it is. It is very heavy-handed white person writing.
Yeah.
But it's funny, Nick, knowing you and knowing your, I feel like we both have the same nerdy brain, but you're also very literature leaning. And I was like, I could watching it. Yeah. I was like, that makes sense. That this makes sense. I didn't realize how much they're referencing other things till I looked up the trivia.
Yeah, there are so many things. Even I mean, well, it'll all come out, I'm sure, as we talk about it. But top of the line, this is a classic tragic mulatto story where you know that something is up with this mysterious, forlorn lady character, and at the end, bad things are going to happen to her. So there's definitely some literary references, also a lot of film references too.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely missed all of those. Aside from the obvious Rebel Without a Cause when he's wearing the red jacket.
Oh yeah,
the observatory.
My favorite.
Exactly. There's also a slight one. I don't actually know if this is intentional, but right at the top of the episode, where the bellhop is sent to the spooky room with the creepy guest, the room that they name, they're like, he's in room 217. And that's the original room in The Shining, in the book, not the movie. The movie, I think, is 230 something. I just remember because anytime that there's maybe I am deeply nerdy where I keep all the micro references.
No, but I read that was on purpose. You are correct. I read it.
Shit. Okay, cool.
So keep going because you're right.
Yeah. I also love in that exchange, the bellhop goes up. And, there's all this hemming and hawing about the creepy one in the room. And right before you get to Angel opening the door, there's a gay couple standing in the hallway and they get caught making out. And I just love that in a hotel full of society's rejects, Angel is the creepy one.
This very handsome man that is not
the 1950s greaser.
Yeah. Nicholas, it is also one of your favorites.
It is. So similar to the other Nick, I do love a good noir story. This is set in a time period with film and stuff that I really, really love. And I don't know, this episode to me perfectly encapsulates what Angel the character is about and what the show is about. I think this show or this episode is I don't know, it's a very gray moral area type episode. Yeah. And I really, really like getting into those. And again, with the references, I am a sucker for that. I caught the Shining reference too, Rebel Without a Cause. Absolutely obsessed with it. I feel like the score is really, really good in this episode too. Incredibly creepy. And then also Cordelia's top. I just have to say that.
Oh my God, it's iconic.
I feel like watching it for this was maybe the first time I noticed, and maybe it's just because we've been covering Angel, but I haven't gotten to a Hyperion Hotel episode. This episode immediately felt very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
They could do those sweeping shots of the lobby with the different crowds talking about what's going on, and then follow him upstairs and I love my Buffyverse shows, but normally they don't have the budget to have a set where you can actually pan across and walk up steps and there's space.
Right.
And the score felt really cinematic too. And Dayspring, you texted me while you were watching it because we both had the same reaction for the end.
Yeah, no, listen, this is one of those episodes that I don't want to say it's not that it doesn't make my top favorite list because it's not good. It's just that there's so many more character driven stories that happen in the Buffyverse that have the confidence this story has. And listen, I think Tim Minear was the one who wrote this episode. And I think, listen, I haven't read The Shining since for like 10, 15 years. So I didn't catch The Shining references, but I read In a Lonely Place recently, which was the Hughes story of the Strangler attacking women, and it's told from the perspective of man, but also I'm a big Joan Didion fan. So True Confessions by John Gregory Dunne, who was her husband, of course, dealing with issues of Catholicism and guilt. I think this is just like the perfect mesh of all of those LA noir vibes. And this episode had a lot it had to do, and it had a lot at stake, especially introducing the Hyperion. And I think it did really well because you are retroactively rewriting Angel's history to put him in this hotel that we've never heard of until this episode. And yet it does it really well. And it's in between him regaining his soul and before he meets Whistler. So it's kind of lost years that we can sort of try to place, especially when you get into Orpheus. But it's a good episode, and it made me cry so hard at the end for a lot of different reasons than the obvious.
Same.
I I rewatched this right before we started recording, and I also was crying at the end, so you're not alone.
It's so, the only thing I can think of is, again, to go down the literary route, the things we carry, the things that people carry. And I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. So often I feel like, a new series takes a while to kind of get its footing and tell you what it's about. And I think part of the reason why I love this episode so much is that it starts to give you the broader sense of what the series is trying to accomplish. One, it is a story about a person who's seeking personal redemption for all of the stuff that we know he's done. But also it aligns really well with the whole point of this episode is that the real monsters are people, you guys. Except that I guess in this case, it's a demon that feeds off of fear and guilt, but humans are like more than happy to play into the fear and guilt angle. So I feel like not like stylistically, it's awesome. But it's also, it's not just about Angel. It just kind of like, I don't know, it puts Angel in the context of people and kind of points at it as like, yeah, sure, he's, murdered many and sucked their blood, but are people any better?
Yes, I don't know. It's weird. So I always feel differently about this episode every time I watch it because I used to think it was too like heavy-handed stupid. And now it's like, I do appreciate it. And I don't think it's stupid. It's still heavy-handed, but I don't know that I wouldn't like say it's stupid. Right. But it also falls into, and I feel like at least half of you have watched Doctor Who, if not all of you. Right.
I have not. I'm not a Doctor Who stan. I like Doctor Who, but I haven't watched it.
I have not watched Doctor Who.
Okay, so it's just me. I'm the stan.
Just me and you, Nick. Okay. It felt a little Doctor Who-y to me with like, we are introduced to this plot that has never come up, but we're retroactively inserting it. But also we're supposed to care about these like new characters that we know will never pop up again. And I'm such a hard sell on caring about characters I know won't pop up again.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I like? Just, Doctor Who does do that a lot.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Or did. And like that would always bother me. Like I don't even remember. Wasn't there like a woman at the end of Tennant's run that was in like one arc of like 2 episodes, and like he goes back to see her again, and it's like, what? And I just like those characters are a hard sell for me. Do you remember who I'm talking about, Nick?
Well, I wanted to be like, oh, it's Donna, but
no, I love Donna.
Separate. Yeah. This is not a Doctor Who podcast, you guys.
I mean, it might be. Donna and Tennant are coming back. So we might have to.
Yeah, we're going to have a separate podcast.
Yeah. But like, so even that being said, I still fucking cried at that end. Like, even if I thought this was like even if I thought this was like the dumbest episode of a Buffyverse show, that ending worked so well. And like seeing this little old lady just like, I could cry again just talking about it. Like, that's really well done. And when we get, this is an Angel, that's a version of Angel I like. When we get to see him, he's not like emoting, but he's being sweet with her, right? Like, he's like, okay, yeah, we'll go out, knowing that that's not going to happen, but he's just like being kind to her. And like, I like when we get to have those moments with that character.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, I don't know if this isn't a bottle episode in the sense that it's like, filler.
Like, kinda, right? Yeah.
But like thematically it is, because it's like, I'll call it a bubble episode, because it, like you said, it's just like, okay, one and done, here are some characters, learn about them, and then forget them immediately. But I think that ending, I mean, yes, it needs to be there for the tear-jerking moments, but it's also a good bookend to when we start the episode. He's a complete loner and he wants nothing to do with people. And, we know why he's avoiding people and all of that stuff. And then at the end, you can see him come around and care for humanity. And then that leads right back into the rest of season 2 and the rest of the series. So like, we need that moment for closure.
Ooh, Nick, you just made me love this even more because you're fucking right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree. Angel was all about helping the helpless. It's all about fighting the good fight in the face of every obstacle before you and helping people who are helpless. I agree with you, Nick. It's one of those episodes that I think really drives home the point of the show. And it happens early on in season 2 when they have so much work to do setting up the rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, even it feels like there was at least a little bit more care put into this story than normally with like a one-off story and one-off characters.
100%. Yeah.
Right. Like all the references, like I was looking up, there are just so many references. Like even her name being Judy is a reference. I forget. I was like, that's a reference to like an older movie. And like the PI is a reference to something. Like clearly a lot of like care was put into writing this.
There's also the issue of Angel smoking. There was another YouTuber who talked about this, that Angel smoking is usually a sign of him being jealous. So when he turns to Angelus in the alleyway and he fights the victim in season 2, he's taking a cigarette from her. When he meets Spike and Drew, he's smoking. Here, he's really struggling with smoking, and that's supposed to be symbolic of his struggle with transitioning from being evil to just who the Angel we would meet in season 1 is, and the rest of the series.
Oh, I like that because that really that makes me think of. I mean, it's later on in the series, but the flashback when Darla tries to get him to feed on the baby, and he's really trying, which provides like new context because you thought like when you initially see the flashbacks of the whirlwind during the Boxer Rebellion, like you don't think that, you just think it's Angelus, but then they provide more context and you realize it's now Angel trying to be Angelus. So I like that connective tissue there.
You're right, Dayspring. Like even that opening, it's like the bellhop is like, oh, that guy gives me the heebie-jeebies, which I love that then Cordelia says at the end about the hotel. But like, they're talking about this like creep. And I mean, like you said, Nick, it is like, it's this handsome greaser, like give me a break. But they're setting up
He's
for
so handsome in this episode.
Oh, so hot.
Handsome.
I would deliver his bill.
I think about the CBS David Boreanaz we have now, and I'm just like, this isn't right.
No, it's not fair. But I like that it's like, ooh, there's a monster, and like you said, it's like we would think it would be Angelus, but it's not. It's just he's this like loner dude who creeps them out. And I kind of like that. I like that reversal that it's like someone's scared of him, but not because he's a vampire or Angelus. They're just like, I don't know, that guy's weird.
I mean, to be fair, he does walk into the hotel later on holding an axe.
True.
Like it was just going to get on the elevator. So I don't know if that was like a normal occurrence for him, but that could lend to it.
Right in that initial bellhop scene, I forget if it's the hotel manager or the bellhop, him who says it, but one of them says like, oh yeah, look into his eyes, there's nothing there. So it's like, they're picking up what he's putting down.
True.
They're like, guys, you're so close.
So, and then he finds a woman after we see him later walking through the hotel. Oh, I guess I should start with saying that we open on him wanting Cordelia and Wesley to look into the Hyperion Hotel, which I forgot that later they find out that he was part, but I was like, wait, they don't know? Like, he doesn't tell them? When do they find out? But it's later in the episode. Which is also like very par for the course for Angel with his loner bullshit, right? Like, you could just tell them, I had a really terrible experience at this hotel. Let's look into it. And they would be like, yeah, sure. Right? Like, Cordy and Wes wouldn't bat an eye at that. That doesn't seem that out of the ordinary for like anything else they do every day. Right?
I mean, listen, Angel has a problem with communication. Just talk to people. Tell Buffy he's a vampire cursed with a soul in the moment of track. Avoid so much trouble. Communication, Angel.
That is, and that will also be a bad, like a theme this season with like Darla.
Yes, just communicate, please.
I've been doing little like background watches to try to get like ideas for photos, and like I forgot how long that goes on before they find out. Like, he's just like kind of grumpy and sleeping a lot, and then he tells them he's seeing Darla, and everyone thinks he's like making it up, and it's a lot. But same, yes, it goes back to that. So then he is walking through the hotel, and he gets into his room and finds a woman who is going through his shit, and she pretends to be the maid, but he like clocks her immediately.
And says one of the worst lines in the whole show.
God, which one? Yeah. Which picked the line? I'm not even sure which one.
She's like, I'm the maid. And he goes, you're not a maid and you're the wrong color.
Oh my God. Nick, I want you to know that I just fucking watched this, and I'm so stupid. I promise I have a master's degree. In my brain, I guess I wasn't paying attention. I thought he was referring to her dress because it's like a patterned.
Oh, so sweet.
Oh my gosh.
God.
Oh God.
As you were saying it, I was like, oh God, Ian, you read that line very wrong. Jesus. Yeah. I really thought it was like, well, duh, yeah, she's not wearing a maid's outfit. She's wearing this nice dress.
Sure. Yeah. In your version of the show.
Right. Yeah.
My cringe, like when I heard that, I cringed and I was like, wait, it's LA. He could mean either. That line could be read a couple of ways.
Yeah.
None of which are great.
Yeah. So then it is gratifying to watch him kick the shit out of that PI, though. I do enjoy that. That's also when Angel's really hot, I think, when he's like, he's not like pressed about it, right? Like, he's just like, okay, you can come in, and then slams the door in the guy's face and is like, no, you can't. But like, is doing it deadpan, and that really works for me. In his racer outfit, doing all this. Oof.
And then he grabs him by the ear and throws him in. Yes.
Right?
I love it.
And then to Nick's point of the heavy-handedness, then we see that the hotel manager is turning away a black family and telling them they don't actually have any room in case you didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And then what do we think of the Cordy and Wes of it? Because I used to find that annoying, but in this watch, I was like, wait, no, I do like them as almost the chorus, where they're like explaining it to the audience. What'd you guys think?
I like them in this episode, but given what we were just talking about with Angel refraining from just telling them up front, I feel like had he told them up front, there would have been significantly less of them in the episode.
Yeah,
there would have been no reason for them to be there up until they show up at the end, which I also kind of have issues with that, considering he says at the end, like, yeah, bring gun. We're going to need some extra muscle. Wesley and Cordelia stand there and don't do anything. So I don't understand why they needed everybody there. But that's neither here nor there. But no, I do love them. I think it's realistically, this should have just been an episode that was a flashback focusing on Angel. But I feel like they were necessary. They're the main cast. So that was their way of including them.
And I do think this season automatically is better at including them more than season 1 was, right? Because a lot of times it would be just, they're there in the beginning. Angel does his mission. Then they're there at the end. And like, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think the opening of season 2 really established that in that interim between the finale of season 1 and season 2, they became a little bit more than just coworkers. They became a fully realized team that has a lot of kinetic tissues. And, you know, this is like, I'm not going to disagree with what we were saying before, but this is stuff when we get later on in the series, when you understand the loss, how these characters evolve. I mean, it's because of episodes like this that we solve this genesis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. They find out that it's declared, it is a historical landmark, right?
Yeah.
And then Cordy's like finds that picture of with Angel in the background, and she, which they never really address in the Buffyverse. They're always like fast and loose with their rules with like magic and vampires, and she's like, it's not the vampires don't photograph, it's that they don't photograph well.
Okay.
I think Andrew calls that out.
Yes, he does.
At some point. Yeah.
And then he like
when
says...
does Andrew call it out?
I think it's season 7. Oh, it's during Storyteller, where he's like, "Why does if they can't stand in front of a mirror, how can they be photographed?"
Yeah.
Okay, I love that.
I just have to say, just a short thing. One of my favorite things. I don't think this is intentional, but this really warms my heart. How much like admin is named in the like. There's like a whole. Actually, I guess it's in the next episode. There's like a whole subplot about another character coming back, and they're like, "Yeah, I got a tax guy and a finance guy that could help you get the like mortgage rates." And I'm like, "This is the like a name. This is the filler that I'm here for. Just like tell me how the sausage gets made, you guys. You need some people to research. It's a historic landmark. Cool. What does that mean? I don't know, but it gives them something to do."
Isn't it David Nabbit that tries to help them out with the mortgage and the taxes? That's what I thought. Yeah,
because I think he's in the next episode. I think, or like in 2 from now, because I think that's his last appearance. Because I'm always Angel, especially like took like longer to find its footing, and there are a lot of characters like that where it's like that's weird. We never see that character again, and never even talk about him. But I did read that actor. Like, he was one of those guys that was in a lot of things, especially around that time, that he, like, they couldn't find, like, a way to work with his schedule, so they just stopped including the character, because he was supposed to be, like, a reoccurring character.
Yeah, he's so goofy. I think also the reason I gravitate toward that is, again, as, like, the Giles in Resident, the person who actually became a librarian, because I wanted to do the research while my friends did the fun things. I just have such a soft spot for... like the mundane hero, the hero who files the paperwork to get the shit done, who gets the permits.
We love mundane heroes. I agree with you. I always think about, it's so funny that you said that because there's some issues recently with Exped that I've been like, but that hero, that person was kind of victimized here, and they're the one who pushed the paperwork, and they're the real hero of the story, and no one cares about them. So I'm there with you, Nick.
Yes. Thanks for seeing me.
You are the resident watcher of this podcast now, just so you know. That is like...
Wait, me?
Yes.
I'm crying tears of joy.
I actually... I almost said, you're the only librarian I know. That is not true. I actually know a lot of librarians, which is... I don't know that many people do.
You went to the new school. Like, plenty of librarians.
Also, yeah, I'm queer and I lived in Brooklyn. So, Nicholas.
Hi.
Where do we go now?
So we wrapped up the scene where they find the picture of Angel, and then we move on to the scene where there is the other person that is staying in the hotel that is hearing voices, and he eventually shoots himself.
Right. And I thought that was... did you find, like, I don't know, they reminded me of, like, a little, like, throwback horror a little bit, because it's, like, he's being talked to, and then we, like, the way the music loops, I did think that was, like, good and kind of creepy.
Yeah, this, that character, the 2 times that we see him, very much so gave me Jack Torrance from The Shining, especially when Angel sees him in the hallway and he's just talking to himself. It reminded me of the scene from The Shining when Wendy and oh my gosh, the name, the kid outside.
Wendy and the child, yes.
Yeah. And then you see Jack Nicholson inside and he's just like staring off screen. Yeah. It was very, very that for me. And that is one of the reasons that I love this episode. I mean, I know that like the topic itself, suicide and all that jazz is horrifying, but there's such a feeling of like isolation and given the topic of being, paranoia with the Thessalac demon, I don't know. This episode makes me feel icky. I love it, but it makes me feel icky, and I like things sometimes that make me feel icky, and that is exactly what that character in that scene did for me.
Well, stop provoking.
This is further proof that the 2 Nicks are the same person. Things that make me feel icky. I can't stay away. I make no apologies.
And you'll both be happy to know you are both former emo kids.
You didn't have to say that. That was incredibly obvious. Thank you.
Like, no shit, Ian. And then, so then we see that the manager goes in with the bellhop. He tells the bellhop to put the body in the meat locker. The only thing I thought was a little like, I was like, wait, we go from there to like, then everyone in the hotel lobby knows? Like, I would think that would be something they're not telling people, right?
I had two thoughts back to back from those two scenes. One, when the guy shoots himself, I'm like, is this another Hellmouth? Because I'm like fast forwarding through all of the things that happen over, the series. And I'm like,
yeah,
really, that Hyperion is like at the center of a lot of bullshit. But also for that reason, incredibly smart of Angel to hang out in a seedy hotel where no one's tracking names and that dead people are turning up left and right. Like,
true.
It's a free buffet for vampires. So, good on him.
True. And then we get, so everyone's talking about it. They're talking about whether it was a murder, whether it was blah, blah, blah. And then we get our Rebel Without a Cause scene.
My favorite. Oh my God.
Talk about it, Nicholas.
This is, actually you're going, like when we, at the end of the year, we're going to the Halloween convention. This is the Griffith Observatory is on my stop. I'm going to check it out when I'm there because it is from some of my favorite movies. It's obviously from this episode, Rebel Without a Cause, which is paired with Angel dressed in the exact same outfit as James Dean standing there. Also Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
I was just about to say, I really hope you're also going to say Charlie's Angels.
Absolutely, yes.
Where we see Debbie Moore revealed
with her gold guns. Yes. Oh my God.
Oh, how did she do that backflip, especially with those heels? No one knows.
Physics aren't a thing in those movies.
Because I think of Debbie Moore a lot because the big thing at that time with Debbie Moore was that she had just turned 40 and look how great she looks. And it's like, now I'm 40.
Oh God,
and I don't look anywhere like that. And she was like, I don't feel old. Like, she wasn't old at all. So shout out to Debbie Moore for defying unfair, real expectations.
God, I like you saying that. I'm like, oh, you're right. I remember it being a really big, like, ooh, look, this woman doesn't look like a goblin and she's 40, as if like.
Ian, you're probably older than Debbie Moore was when she filmed Charlie's Angels when she was Madison Lee.
That is the weirdest thing you've ever said to me. This is like when I was like, I stoned and watching, I don't even remember what for, but I happened to be like put on Welcome to the Hellmouth. And I was like, wait a minute, how old is Joyce? And I Googled it, and Joyce is my age. In season 1, Joyce Summers is supposed to be 40. And I was like, fuck.
The worst part is when your like best friend asks you to do a live for Becoming part 1 and 2, and you identify more with Joyce than you do with Buffy because you're her age. That is when you're like, wow.
So, Nicholas, we will be taking photos at the Griffith Observatory, is what you're saying.
Yes, of course. Of course.
I went to LA with a friend from Australia, who was like a friend from MySpace days, my friend Nick, and we just like stayed in touch. And we both went there at the same time, and he wanted to do touristy things. I'm really bad, even if I don't live there, I'm really bad at doing tourist things. Like, I just like hang out and go to a bar, or go to a restaurant. But that was one of the places we went. So I've like been there before. It's very nice.
They only do do they still do the like laser shows? Like, I guess in my mind it's Frozen in like the 1970s. Like, what actually
I have no idea.
They used to do them in my neighborhood here in Miami for the observatory. Like, they would do like Led Zeppelin laser shows.
Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that I know that actually happens there, apart from gorgeous people standing around looking sad. But that's all in LA, so never mind.
Yeah, when I went, it was just kind of like there was stuff you could look at, and the view was nice, and we took a bunch of like cute pictures.
Yeah, we took our dogs when we were there. I love that spot so much.
It's very pretty.
I usually go there.
The traffic is wild, though, going up the hill to get there. I remember I called an Uber and they wanted me to walk down. And I was like, no, I'm not walking down to the bottom.
Hateful.
So they're at the observatory. This is like, you cannot, there's no way you could watch this and not be like, oh, they're like trying to do Rebel Without a Cause. Like, even Angel like looking down with his jacket, and like she comes up behind him and he's being all like aloof. And like, I know that it's a show, but do they say it's a show when they say end of the world like 4 times?
Well, she refers to it as the pictures.
Right. Okay. I guess, yeah, that's true. Okay.
So I think, I don't know what movie it is that she's referring to, but it's definitely a movie that they're watching.
Can you all tell what mush my brain is lately? I feel like you're all having to be like, yes, Ian, they did say that.
Well, to be fair, I literally have the episode pulled up on one of my screens right now. So I'm like looking at the dialogue.
I mean, to be fair, you're 40.
Brain's starting to go. Nick, you are not that far behind me, right?
I know, literally my 40th is in 2 months.
Okay. Wait, also I want to tell this, since we're talking about Ian turning 40, I had my birthday party at Stonewall on Saturday, which one of the Nicks made it, and Nicholas was there, and Nick G texted me on, my party was Saturday, sent out the like invite. Nick G texted me on Friday being like, oops, we came to Stonewall, thought your birthday party was this day. It was a day early for my birthday.
Look, you might be turning 40, but that doesn't stop me from having senior moments all the time.
Nick, I've told so many people that story because I felt terrible. I was like, oh no.
Why? Because I am just a space case? That's why you love me.
I felt like it was like I had forced you to go on a day when like it wasn't my birthday.
Oh yeah, twist my arm, make me go to Stonewall.
Stonewall so much.
Well, that's funny too because both Nicks would have met at my birthday.
We can't exist in the same place. Actually, it causes a rift in the temporal vacuum.
Listen, I still
too many Nicks.
Too many Nicks.
I think I told Nicholas this. I have there's a group picture of us like upstairs drunk at Stonewall, and I have that on my wall. But I also, Nick G, have the picture of the last live show that we did together, the group pic that we took. I put that on my wall too.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it. It's now officially June 1st, the month of gay.
Yes, the gay. Hi, gay.
So we're like, biblically required to go to Stonewall.
Yes. And I feel like you and I have been drunk at Stonewall quite a lot.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, never. No. Not us. So she just kind of like leaves him alone because he's not really engaging with her that much. We like get a quick cut to Wes and Cordy, and I do like Cordy's line here where she says it's like a game of who died horribly because Angel screwed up 50 years ago.
Cordy.
Angel, right? He walks through. Everyone's discussing whether it was suicide or murder. Blah blah blah. Judy calls him into her room. Also, I do think that even that hallway set is like very well lit to like be dark, but you can still see the people.
Yeah, I was reading on the Wikipedia page, and I forget which parts of it, but because some of it was a set and some of it was filmed in an actual hotel. And I think the shots, especially like the more quote unquote modern day shots where he's walking through and you see like the garbage everywhere and then the turned over mattress. I think all of that is supposed to be an actual building, like a hotel that they're in versus the set that we come to know.
So Judy's worried it was a murder is what she's worried about. And I do think it's cute that she's like, I want to give you a heads up because I owe you, like, in case you have anything to, get out of here before the cops come. And he clocks her that he knew it was a PI and not her boyfriend that he beat up. And we get the explanation of what happened. And I don't know how I didn't remember this part because I really didn't. I was like, ooh, that's what we're doing. And I really, because I don't know Angel as well as I know Buffy, I was like, I hope he's not an asshole about this. And I was really glad he was not. Like, I was like really worried he was going to be like stuck on the fact that she stole a bag of money, because my reaction to that is good for her. That's what she deserves. Yes, steal that bag of money.
Oh, he's fully supportive of it.
Yeah.
Daddy, you like steal that money. I'm going to give you a cigarette. Yes.
I'm assuming, this could just be me, this is supposed to be an homage to Psycho, right? Because she does the exact same thing in Psycho, where she's a teller at the bank and she steals the money.
Ooh.
And there's like a PI tracking her down, and she goes to a hotel, which is an evil hotel. So I feel like this definitely had to be an homage to Psycho.
Yeah, because she goes back to that period and all that. The allegories are there, or excuse me, the similarities.
Yeah, in the trivia for this, there are 2 references to Psycho. apparently the 68 rooms, 68 vacancies. I don't know how that's a reference, but it is.
Oh, because I think he says that, if I remember correctly, he does say that in Psycho. I forget how many rooms, but he does say we have however many rooms
Okay.
and however many vacancies.
Okay. And then
I'm mad that I didn't clock that.
And then it says later we meet Judy, a young woman who stole money, blah, 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 like in Psycho. Because, yeah, so the PI in this episode is named C. Mulvihill? God, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. A reference to the corrupt PI and former cop from the 1974 film Chinatown.
Sure. Oh, wow. There are like so many references in here.
Yeah. God, and there's so much shit in this episode, which I do really like. Because also the thing that I know sometimes people don't love a reference, but I don't think they take away from it at all. Like, I don't think they're like distracting. The Rebel Without a Cause is a little bit like, but it's fine. But right, did any of you think it was like too distracting from the story or no?
I didn't.
No, I think when you talk up to people and you layer a scene correctly, I agree with you, Ian. It doesn't take away. I mean, as long as it's not, I think the Rebel Without a Cause, to echo what one of the Nicks just said, it does take away from it just because it's on the nose. But like in general, no, I like a reference, speak up to it, just don't make it hokey. Don't make it cringe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if the times where I'm like, okay, that was a bit much, is if it's required that if you have to know it's a reference in order to understand what's actually happening, then that's just, you're looking down your nose at the audience. But this is sort of like layered in. What I find more distracting than the obvious references is in this scene where Judy's she comes out with it all and she tells him about her history. Something that was way on the nose and extra cringy was she's pacing around the room and she goes, my blood isn't pure, it's tainted. And I'm like, oh, Judy. No.
Judy, baby.
And then Angel says something to her like, it's blood. And I'm like, yeah, all right, well, if you're gonna say that over the top line, you may as well say it to a vampire, I guess.
Right, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, he is, I guess, the audience for a line like that. I'm not, though. I'm not. I was like, ooh, come on. Like,
I guess if they were going for 1950s authenticity.
That's true.
I was gonna say that because I don't know exactly how they spoke of that back then, so I don't know if that's like true to what they were saying back then or if that just sounds hammy now. I mean, it definitely sounds hammy now, but I don't know how they talked about all that stuff back then.
I think it's both. I think, okay, look, I love this episode. I would say my problem with this episode is that it's employing a lot of it lacks a kind of nuance, right? Like if you're gonna dig up this trope about race and passing, and you're gonna do it inside a genre show, like you kind of have to tread lightly and not like you got to land the plane. And a lot of times the lines in this show are just sort of like, oh, we're just gonna crash the plane and then move on to the next scene. So it's a love-cringe relationship I have with
it. Nick, I forgot how good you are with a quick turn of a phrase. So you're going to crash the plane. So then Angel, is this right after this when he like brings her to the basement? Yeah, he brings her to the basement, right? To like hide the money.
Hide the money. Yeah.
And I do actually kind of like that, like almost immediately. So he hears the whispers. He says there's something in the hotel making the people crazy. She kind of takes it as like a hyperbole and like, yes, there is. Look how weird everyone is here. But he means it literally. And I like that right after that, we then see present day Angel finding the money and like finding it, where they in the exact same spot. And I guess this might be the first time I thought about we're supposed to assume then he's like, shit, she didn't leave, right? Is that what that is?
No, so he doesn't get clued in that she's still alive until they fight the demon later on. But there was technically a scene between the two that we just talked about where Cordelia actually points out that there's no record of her dying.
Right. She checked in and then wasn't seen again, right?
Right.
And we see, then we cut back to Wes and Cordy. And I do like this scene of Wes being like, oh, there's some presence hiding in the Hyperion Hotel. And then Cordy names the demon and like says what it is. But then it's because Angel had called and told them, and she hands him the phone. Dayspring, sometimes Cordy reminds me so much of both of us with how we are with each other somehow. Like we're both Cordelia at each other somehow.
Oh, I know. It's, although I'm more of a Harmony.
And is Hammy Angel? I feel like that makes him Angel.
No. Hammy is Gwen. Gwen.
So he tells them to get gun, they're gonna get rid of this demon. And then we see Flashback Angel goes to see a man named Denver, which I don't know if I just forgot this, but we see this man later on this season in his like present day form as an old man running a like mystical bookshop.
R.I.P. I'm so sad. Yeah, because I believe, if I remember correctly, Darla kills him.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, that's when it's the episode. I forget the name of it. It's the episode when she's trying to get like the glove so that she can get to the senior partners, and he goes to ask Denver about it, and Darla shows up and kills him.
Oh, yep. I'm looking at his Buffy fandom wiki page, and yes, you are correct. Darla stabbed him with a sword from behind before taking the glove for herself.
Well, at least with this one-off character, they eventually killed him off instead of just not seeing him again.
I mean, it's weird because I do think Angel did that kind of well, but almost too well, where it's like, all right, but I'm not going to remember this character. Like, I like when a character can like just pop up every once in a while. I recently binged just because it was leaving Netflix. I don't know that I fully recommend it. It's fine. The show iZombie. Have any of you ever watched it?
I have not.
I wanted to like it.
Yeah.
Same.
Rob Thomas.
Yeah, right.
Veronica Mars and I go way back.
Yeah. It's fine. It's like cute for like, I work from home, so I put it on like then, and it's fine for that because, you know, you don't have to fully pay attention. But that show would do a lot of that where it's like, here's a character in this episode. 10 episodes later, they will show up again, but they are very generic looking and you're not going to get a reminder who they are. So often I'd be like, am I supposed to know this person? And then I'd have to like look at the wiki page and whatever. But I do like that. I do like it. It feels more like world building if we are like, yes, we can bring this character back this many episodes later. I do like that shit. Buffy did it best, I think.
Ian, I was just going to agree with you so hard. Like, you know, the thing about the Buffyverse is like the Buffyverse is just like king at dropping what you think is a throwaway character.
Yes.
And then just giving you little glimpses and like they become like the linchpin in a major thing. Like I always think of in Buffy, Amy the Witch, where she shows up in like episode 3 when this show is just bonkers monster of the week, and then she becomes the one who convinces Willow to go like to lose all her inhibitions and go dark and like fucking destroy things like 5 seasons later. So Buffy nails that whole like we're gonna build this little throwaway character, and I feel like Angel tries to, and then at the same time that I think they were also, you know, because it was on the WB, and you get a lot of, like, in the first 3 seasons, you get a bunch of characters dropping by, passing through LA from Buffy. And then I think by, like, some partway through season 3, it feels like they just kind of give all of that up. I could be wrong, but...
Well, you know what's a really good character here that is a shared Buffy and Angel, which is fantastic for both series, is Anne.
Yeah.
That is a good example of that needle, that thread that they tied together, and I agree with you. I mean, they were really good with doing that. I mean, Gwen's another character that appears, Lila, who will eventually become very prominent.
Oof, love
it's
Lila.
just, they do such a good, they invested, I don't think it's perfect. I think there are some flaws in it because we see a lot of actors recast it, you know, and appearing around, but I think, and listen, I don't want to say he who shall not be named, but at least he was investing at one point in continuity and making sure you got actors there and making sure that people cared at a time when that wasn't the norm. It was more of an outlier. It's more of a standard today, but Buffy Angel were the the pioneers for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that, right? That kind of is like in 2023, it's like, yeah, of course a fucking show does that. But back then it really wasn't like that with these shows, like I always feel like this and like X-Men the Animated Series are what made me like always wanting at least a little bit of serialized storytelling where like we will go back to that point later in the story, and we do. And that's like spoiled so many shows for me, because even now shows don't always do like, I live with my parents, take care of my mom. She's watching Law and Order all the time. Those episodes, like it's like a restart every single episode. And I'm always like, what do I care? Like,
well, no, I'll take it a step further too. Like, listen, I was a big Riverdale fan when it first came out, and the Arrowverse, everything. But it came to a point that there were no stakes. There was nothing within the actual writing itself. It was just gibberish, melodramatic plot twists, just for the sake of having them. And I think a show like Buffy and Angel really spoils you, because they did the 22 episode season right.
Yes.
There is some filler. There are some episodes that, you're like, okay, we have to get through this. But for the most part, it does kind of serve as a plot, a theme or something. And you have shows today that can't even do that for half that amount or a sliver of that amount. So,
true.
It is a high bar to set, and they did it well here.
Maybe it's just because I grew up watching Buffy and Angel and shows like this, just the 22 to 24 episode format. But a lot of the shows, to what you're saying now, it just feels like they're trying to be more streamlined and they're trying to trim the fat a little bit. And I get that today's audiences probably like that a little bit more, especially younger audiences. But for me, I think I appreciate the world building aspect of the bigger seasons. Like I can't even think, like if we were to try and cut down a season of Buffy or Angel, putting aside the first season of Buffy, to 12 episodes, I can't even think how you would do that, and to have it even narratively make sense. You're missing so many episodes, so many character building moments, even the one-off ones. Like you think of like an episode of Buffy and a beer bat, something that a lot of people shit on. But that was to an extent a pivotal moment for Buffy getting over Parker and moving on.
Yes.
But it's like that would be considered a filler episode. You cut that out, you lose all of that.
Yeah.
There's also, I'm a big Sailor Moon fan, and Sailor Moon is a 200 episode anime, and the first season is like 40 plus episodes, and there is a lot of beauty and intimacy in those mundane episodes where maybe the plot isn't being serviced, or maybe the themes aren't, but you get to spend some intimate time with those characters and you get to know them, and it creates that little personal rapport versus those streamlined series that go through everything really quickly.
Right. Yeah, we talked about this in the Becoming recording, and Adam Sass said something that like editor Ashley, hi Ashley, texted me to be like, this made me tear up. And I was like, fuck, that made me tear up too. Like Adam Sass was like, Buffy and Angel are like an argument in favor of 22 episode seasons, because not all shows did them well. Like I don't want to pretend that like every show was great because it had 22 episodes. They weren't. Buffy and
looking
Angel.
At you Desperate Housewives.
Buffy and Angel like did though. And I think to your point, Nick, you're right. Like, even something like this episode, this doesn't really develop any characters, but the beat that I mentioned where like you get to see Angel being very like tender with this older woman is like a very nice, and like you said, Nick, it sets up the rest of like the story of the show. And so this episode, technically the plot of it doesn't matter, but like it still kind of does. Right. And Adam Sass was saying how these shows are a big argument in favor of 22 episode seasons because it felt like they were your friends. It felt like these were your friends and they were in your life for as long as you needed them, and you got to grow with them. And like, right? Like that's like, I think of like Buffy and Willow, and like I did grow with them. I did get to see them grow, and like they were my friends. They still are. Fuck. And yeah, some shows do the 8 episode seasons well. But some shows don't, right? It's weird because I love Jessica Jones. That season 1 is maybe my favorite season next to WandaVision of any Marvel show. But like even a show like that, I was like, wait, but I would actually like to see her do like Veronica Mars type mystery solving, like that aren't the main case of the season. Like I would have liked a few, like we get one episode where she's looking and these people are mad at the Hulk and the Avengers for like ruining New York, so they go after her. Like more of that shit would have been fun, and it like could have helped us develop the character a little bit more.
Well, it's so funny that you said that, Ian, because I was thinking the Netflix Heroes were the last shows that I thought, I mean, they were what, 12, 14 episodes? I'm
Yeah,
betting.
something like that, yeah.
But they took advantage of the real estate they had, and they were an example of what could have been expanded more, except for Iron Fist season 1, which I know it's kind of like a cliche to say it was bad, but I didn't really like that as much. But Jessica Jones, definitely, I could have gotten a lot more episodes, especially of that final season with the Dark Hellcat saga.
Yeah, I actively didn't like that last season because of
Oh God, I love Trish so much, but I think she needed more episodes for that
because it felt like such a hard turn that it was like, wait a minute, what? Like, Anyway,
Angel.
I was just biding my time to mention David Tennant. Okay.
Yes.
Doctor Who. Nicholas, put us back on track.
Okay, so he goes to Denver and asks him how to kill a Thessallac demon, which also, this scene always makes me laugh because somehow Denver immediately knows that Angel is a vampire and hands him a Bible. And this might be is this the only time within both shows that we see a vampire pick up a Bible and it burns their hand?
I think so, right? I don't know that I can't think of a time that's happened before. Someone will probably tweet at us to tell us if it's happened or not. So if it has, let us know. I cannot remember.
Because that's like one of two things. Like this episode where he picks up the Bible and it burns his hand, and then the garlic in Buffy, where you see it occasionally, but I'm like, they've never once utilized garlic towards a vampire, so I don't understand why this is a thing. But anyways, he chases Angel outside where there is like a street full of people that are standing right in front of him yelling, and then Angel pops up in full vamp face and is like, don't do that again or I'll kill you. But apparently nobody notices. And then they go back inside.
I also love in that exchange, I think it's just before he casually tosses him that Bible, he goes, what are you, like just north of 30? And Angel is so offended. And I can't tell because he's like, I was made a vampire before then, and so how dare you?
It was like 19, right? 1921.
Oh, wow, that's rough. Even to be like a completely ageless vampire, but technically you're 19 and somebody mistakes you for 35.
I feel like there's a couple digs at him throughout the series, especially like towards like season 5, where obviously he looks a little bit fuller, and there's a couple comments that are made to him about his weight or about how old he looks, and it just makes me laugh every single time because I just like the little tongue-in-cheek references to the fact that he no longer looks like he did when he first showed up on Buffy.
Yeah,
which I think like he's like what 32, 33 on Angel season 5, and I remember when I watched, I was like, oh, he's gotten so old. He looks so old, and it's like, damn. I'm like 7 years past that now.
I almost every morning, some mornings because I work from home, I will just depressed work from bed and put my computer on my chest. But if I do get up and go down to eat breakfast, we have a TV in the kitchen, and Fuse TV plays Buffy like all day, and it's wonderful. I feel like I will turn on that channel at the weirdest times and they will be playing Buffy. They go through like the whole series in a week. So every morning I will put on Buffy if I'm eating breakfast in the kitchen. And my mom came down, and my mom loves Buffy too. We were watching it together, and she kept saying like everyone, including Giles, looked so young in the early seasons. And I was like, yeah. And when I was a kid, I always thought they looked like, even like Buffy, Willow, and Xander, I'd be like, well, they like clearly don't look like teenagers. But now that I'm 40, I'm like, they look like babies.
That very thought shapes me to my core when I think about myself now. Like, here I am walking around thinking like, oh, they probably still think I'm 25.
See, I'm so used to seeing people like on the shows growing up where they were older playing teenagers that now when I watch movies and they're actually played by teenagers, I'm like, this doesn't feel right to me. Like, I can't connect, like they're kids.
Even, what's his name? He's in Jason Bear. He is in I think
The Grudge.
It's Lie to Me, isn't it? Lie to Me that he's in?
Maybe. He also was the star of Roswell, which I watched religiously. But that man was like fully in his 30s playing a teenager and like, jacked the arms. Every day was leg day. And I'm thinking like, wow, I can't wait to be 19.
Ben McKenzie was like 28 when he was on the OC. He's supposed to be playing a 16-year-old, and you're like, what?
Ew, ooh.
Rebecca Gayheart in Jawbreaker, she's like 40 in it.
What?
Oh my
She's not like 40. I'm being mean, but she clearly is not a 16-year-old girl.
I think
is what I'm saying.
I think Charisma Carpenter and Nicholas Brendan were like 28 in season 1 of Buffy.
Yeah.
I think I've referenced this a few times, but we did Isabella Gomez on the show One Day at a Time, which we talked about in the first episode because the Justina Machado, who plays her mother on that show, plays the woman in the first episode of this season, the pregnant woman that Angel saves. Her character on One Day at a Time was obsessed with Buffy, so I had queried her to come on for an episode of Buffy, and her agent was like, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. She's actually never watched it, but she would love to watch it and do a podcast with you. So I had her watch the first episode.
That's so sweet.
And we like talked about it together. And because I think when we did it, she was like 19. She was like, wow, everyone looks really old. I was like, oh no, don't say that. She was like, especially Cordelia and Xander. Like, I thought they were teachers. And I was like, oh God.
Oh my God, the read gets shady.
But she was very nice. She was the sweetest sweetheart, younger, but she's like younger. So of course to her, they do look older. And I was like, man, but to me, they look so young. Nicholas, where are we?
All right. So Judy has been hearing voices. And then Angel gets his supplies and walks back into the hotel with his giant fucking axe and realizes that there is nobody in the lobby because they are now upstairs. And what are they doing upstairs, Ian?
They are going to get Judy because the PI has come back to the hotel to get her. And do they immediately decide to hang her? Like, what the fuck I forget how we get there.
Y'all.
I know.
As the black woman in the room.
God.
Please.
Okay, I don't think it was not clear to me that that's what you would think. It would be clear to me that like I know what's about to happen. I remember being very surprised because you can tell that they're ganging up on her.
Right.
And they're all like turning in and the camera work is like making it just feel like very claustrophobic. And then in a split second they do turn. Well, no, they're on her, and then Angel steps in.
Yeah, so they're all at the end of the hallway, and they're, I believe, if I remember correctly, let me fast forward through this. So they are freaking out because they think that because the PI is there as well. So they think not only, is the PI after her because she's a thief, but now they're wondering if she was responsible for the deaths of the guy.
Right.
And they're also calling her a slut, which is random, but neither here nor there, I guess.
It's funny. I mean, that it kind of makes sense. Well, it doesn't make sense, but like throughout the course of the episode, I think what contributes to like, it's a single episode, standalone, and they're trying to build a whole world in 42 minutes. One of the things that I really appreciate is that chorus of people who are in the lobby. I think it's two men and a woman, and you can tell that they're just sort of like those failed LA types, but that's a story for another time. But like at the beginning of the episode, they're really bubbly and they're just spilling tea. And then in the middle of the episode, they start getting a little bitter. And I just really appreciate that by the end, like you can feel that tension, even if you don't know what's about to happen.
Yes. Yeah. Wait, so actually, you know what? I wrote down this like quote that where does he say it? The one guy, when we have that like chorus of like people that are in the lobby often, one of them says, "Don't you dare use alliteration with me, you hack." Which like, what? I just like that that's a thing to get angry at. Like, but yes, so the crowd has gone bananas. And then what is it? I forget. I guess the Angel team shows up first, right? Before we get to the lynching, we get the gang shows up at the hotel, right? Do they see the demon first, right?
No. So they show up, and there's that really cool transition that they do where you see Angel standing there, pans over to them walking in, pans over, and then it's current day, and then they start setting everything up for the ritual to raise the demon.
Right. And I like the like orb thingy that Wesley had. I think it looks cool. I like that. Like, I like when they have to do a ritual because like, at this point, it's like, yeah, Willow and Tara, they're good. They're going to do whatever the like thing is. And like, they know what they're doing. But I kind of like seeing like this gang have to do it. Cause it's like Wesley kind of knows cause he's a watcher, but like they all have to like be there and partake, instead of like, Willow and Tara being at Buffy's mom's house doing a spell and like from afar. So I do like that. My notes are a little muddled here and a lot of caps locks. So the demon pops up, and the demon is very like Buffy verse demon, right? He's very like, ooh, I'm stuffed. Talking about like eating. What is it? He feeds off their fear? Is that what it is?
Right.
Yeah.
Their fear and paranoia.
Yeah.
Which, all right, sure. And he says like the room service in this hotel is still excellent. And so before they defeat him, we see that Judy does what, Dayspring, to get Angel in trouble?
What does she say? I don't remember. I know she points at him and says something, and then they all go after him.
She says, it was him. He's a monster. Look in his room. He has blood.
She doesn't know he's a vampire, does she?
I mean, because the only time that you ever actually see him with the blood is when she's first in his room, when he like comes back into the room because he was getting ice, I'm assuming for the blood or something like that. But he sets the ice tray down right next to the giant bottle of blood, and then she walks out of the bathroom pretending to be the maid.
I also felt like because of this could be me just like seeing it because I'm looking at it. Maybe she doesn't think he's a vampire. Maybe she just thinks he's like gay. And that says in 1954, that is like just as shameful.
Yeah, true. Same thing. Might as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they hang him in a very like brutal scene, and like we really see him.
Oh God.
Yeah.
In my notes, I wrote all caps, a southern demon with a foghorn accent. This script would not pass go in 2023.
Correct.
Oh. Yes. Yeah. So it's the like. Okay. I will give the writing and the direction a lot of credit here. The way that it builds tension from you're like back in the lobby in the 50s, they're piling up on her. Yeah. The like chorus of people talking shit is on the side. It's like it is a really tense scene.
Yeah.
And then just like a whole bunch of things happen in quick succession. You're like empathizing with her because they're they're about to do something to this woman that we know is the tragic mulatto. And then she points the finger at him and she's like, it's him, get him.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, now I can't feel bad for her. So that makes me feel complicated because now I don't like this woman anymore.
But give it 5 minutes.
But then he like, for context, I also had like a crazy religious upbringing. So when I say the look that he gives her when they're like hoisting him up over the balcony with the noose around his neck, which by the way, that is too much. Let's just be less comfortable putting nooses on television.
Yeah. Like I feel like you could have done it just like seeing the like rope go around whatever, but like we didn't need to see the whole like.
Yeah, they take their time with it. But then he gives her this look that's like what I call like the Jesus to Judas look, where he's like, I know, my child, I know. And then he just gets like pushed off the bed. It's just a lot. It was a lot.
That's such a specific name to that look, but I like it. I feel like I fully know what you mean.
Like you betrayed me, but I knew it all along.
I knew this was coming.
But I will die for your sins. Do not worry. I'm an immortal being.
I'm also a well-dressed homosexual.
For real, Daddy Angel.
Yes.
He can get it.
Also, the demon has those weird little, like, fucking tentacle legs coming out of the bottom of his little skirt.
Oh my God, with the sound effects. Even when he's off screen, you just hear them flopping around. I love it.
Flopping. He also clocks Wesley. I like that he clocks Wesley, and like Wesley's upset when he says like especially you about like their paranoia. And they defeat him using a circuit breaker, I think, if I'm correct.
Yes, he like grabs one of the tentacles and then just like smashes it into the circuit board.
Which feels like we just did this long spell and that's what you had to do. Like that's all you needed to do was just like smush him into a circuit breaker. All right, well.
Well, he had to be this like gross corporeal being.
Right. As I said that, I was like, oh wait, they did the spell to make him like be something they could fight, right?
Yeah.
I want to know what he looks like underneath the robe. Because it reminds me of that Family Guy episode where like Peter it's like just two giant legs. That's what I imagine. It's just the head and then just tentacles. I really want to see it.
And his little like dress just keeps him close, right?
Exactly.
I say. Just kidding. Gross.
Dayspring, and then Angel says he has to go do something, and what does he do? Who does he go see?
He has to go upstairs and see Judy. Oh my gosh, she was holding on to that he had died, and she had been in the room this entire time, just sitting by herself, and it's just very beautiful. And she apologizes for killing him, and yeah.
You describing it, I'm like, I could fucking cry just hearing you describe it.
I think, when examining the episode, there's a lot of themes and stuff that we can look at. But I just think, boiling it down to just me projecting the things we carry with ourselves, the guilt we feel, and seeing that there was redemption at the end. I don't know. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, and like, she is... Like you said, Nick, it's like, oh wait, I don't like her. Oh wait, now I do feel bad for her. Like, they do a good job, I think, with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this episode to me, it requires multiple rewatches because obviously reaction channels. I have been watching a ton of Buffy and Angel reactions lately, and it's so funny to watch people watch this episode for the first time because as soon as she accuses him, they're like, oh my God, fuck her. Like, she's the villain now. I can't believe she did that. But I mean, granted, I've seen this like 100 times, but like going back and rewatching it earlier, when Angel gives her the Jesus Judas look before they hang him, the look on her face, though, like immediately she knows, like, I messed up. I'm so sorry for doing this. And I don't know. It's just really powerful, like that. With the theme of the episode being, fear makes people do crazy things. It's very much so like love makes people do the wacky. Like it doesn't take much to make a person do something awful. But even if a person does something awful, there's always room for forgiveness, depending on what it is, obviously.
Right.
Yeah. There's in that moment too, right? Like so after they push him off the balcony, and I think it goes back to her face, and in that moment that you were talking about, Nick, where she realizes what she's done.
Right.
It's honestly, for me, it's like the best scene in the whole episode. Everyone else on that balcony kind of takes a step back, and it's almost like the spell has broken because you can kind of see all of them realize like they've just hung this man in the lobby of a hotel. And it was like crazy and frenetic leading up to that. And then like he hangs, and it's like everyone kind of realizes like, oh, this, like they recognized everything that they were behaving on. And I don't know. It's that's really well done.
I mean, you're right. It's like immediate that they all just, when she's crying and they're just kind of like, oh shit. And then they just kind of like walk away from him. And it is really good. It's like,
There's also one thing that I wanted to point out because we haven't talked about it yet. So the bellhop, the bellhop is acting over the top the entire episode. He is the one that's constantly gunning to get all the horrible shit done. And when Angel, right before Judy accuses him, when Angel walks off of the elevator, everybody is crowded around Judy, but the bellhop is standing in front of one of the doors talking to one of the guests, and he's like doing like a weird like exchange of money outside of everybody's sight. And then when Angel gets hung and everybody takes that step back and realizes what they've done, he's the only one that's standing there going like, what's wrong with you guys? Like we did it. This is great. This is awesome. And then you see the photograph of him later eventually getting, arrested and going crazy. And then they say that he got executed. And I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said about that because I feel like he behaved so differently than everybody else. I feel like he was supposed to be the only person in that hotel that was actually like a villain.
Oh, like he wasn't influenced. He was just bad.
Because you never actually, he's one of the very few that you never actually see him hearing the voices. That's just all him.
True.
Well, I think it ties back into that like overall theme that Angel is about redemption, but it's also recognizing that like the real monsters are people. And the whole episode, you are looking at like the drastic changes in all of these like secondary people, but it feels like by making that guy so clearly like there was something broken about him. I don't know. It's just.
I mean, even from the get-go, he wanted to kick Angel out of the hotel, and the manager was like, you can't just kick somebody out because you don't like the way they look.
But actually, and kind of the flip side to that, though, in that same scene, I think we kind of like passed over it, but there's a moment where, so the crowd's going after her, she points at him, and then like the demon, it's kind of like cutting back and forth, and the demon is finally, like it's been whispering to Angel the whole time, and just as Angel is realizing that like these people are going to kill me, he like lets the demon in a sense, because he's in this dialogue, and then it ends with the demon's trying to convince him like these people are terrible, like the demon's trying to feed off of what he believes is Angel's anger or resentment, whatever. And the demon convinces Angel that everyone here is terrible, and then he's like, what should I do about it? And then Angel says, take them all. Like at the whole episode, Angel's been like struggling, trying to be like a good human and ordering his blood, not killing people, and he's fighting the good fight. And then at the end, he tells the demon to murder every person in that building. Like,
Yeah, well,
it's a struggle.
I think it's definitely like an evolution of the Angel that we see then and now, because I think he's really upset that they murdered him,
Understandably.
Understandably, but I think that was like kind of like the point of the episode, which is this is an Angel who is still figuring out who he is, how to be good, how to do righteousness, and he's easily, I don't want to say easily offended, but this weighs down on him, and versus the Angel we see today. So I think it's supposed to show the change and evolution of the character through that period, and that's what I kind of liked about that.
Yeah, that makes me think of earlier in the episode when he first, I don't know if it's the first time that he has, I think it's when she tells him the story about why she's on the run and stealing the money. And they have a brief exchange of dialogue where she says, I'm not, white, I'm not black, I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. And he says, I understand where you're coming from. Obviously not referring to race, but referring to, having a soul. So I feel like when you kind of examine his behavior in the flashbacks from when Judy first encounters him towards the end, when he starts helping her, that scene at the Griffith Observatory is when he first really starts having, like, you can get a little bit of a sense that he's starting to open up a little bit because he asks her about the boyfriend, whereas before he was just completely dismissive. So I feel like he starts the episode wanting nothing to do with it, just to be by himself. And then he starts to open up and feel, okay, maybe I can help people. I can be more human. And then the humans are the ones that turn on him. So then he just gives in to the demon saying, take them out.
God.
And eventually he'll end up in the 90s, just like on the streets eating rats. Like the Hyperion was actually like a high point for him in his history.
Yes. Oh God. I did read that there was like fans were like wondering what he would have done with that money.
He bought a hotel, bitch.
Yeah, that has to be what he did.
And then, but I read that God, now I can't find the fucking, oh, here we go. Mynheer says that he often gets asked about what Angel did with that stolen money that he recovered from its hiding place 50 years after stashing it in the hotel. Mynheer says that, as far as he is concerned, Angel did not keep the money or use it to buy the hotel. Instead, Angel sent it back to the bank in Salina, Kansas, from which Judy stole it in 1952. Which, like,
I call bullshit. I call bullshit.
No. Also, don't take it away from me that like a black woman funded that. She bought that hotel.
Yeah, well, and not only just funding it, but like it was also a source of so much turmoil and anxiety, discrimination and hate, and now it's going to be turned into an agency of good and helping the helpless. I think that's actually a very powerful, beautiful statement.
Agreed.
Why?
Yeah, and like
Timothy, or you're wrong.
And sending it back to the bank, like, oh, right, because if they're still around, they're really hurting for whatever she stole.
Right,
Like,
that local bank in Kansas does not care about the $300 she stole in 1950.
The local bank that made all of its money from like the Kansas sharecroppers and slave trading is like,
Right.
guys,
Oh my God, Nick, take us to church, yeah.
like, she deserved to steal that money. Give me a break.
This is just like, for me, it's like a 1950s Set It Off, but instead of like Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett, it's just this rando woman
who gets a little bit of help from a vampire, you know. So like, not to harp on it, but when I feel like I'm gonna cry just saying it. When she says, "Am I safe?" and he says, "You're safe," whew, that like made me cry so much. I had to like wipe my glasses. Like I think I finished like 5 minutes before we were supposed to record, and I was like, I need more minutes to like not sound like I'm crying. Like
I was sitting on the couch crying watching this, and like in my tears, I'm like, but how did she get food? Who was like, where did we didn't have Uber Eats? I don't understand.
I will say that did always bother me a little bit with this episode. So it's like, if she was stuck there, how didn't she die? Because like, sure, he was feeding off her, but like, right?
Well, because she said that he kept people from the door.
It was only a condemned building.
Oh, yeah, you know, no big deal. Anyway, I also wonder, like, it's weird. So Zach asked in the last episode, he was like, wait, do they like go to the hotel pretty early on? And Ryan was like, yes, and it's such a good setting. Each door opens a new plot line. He was like, you can open a door and there's a ghost. You can open a door and there's an old lady. It's weird that Angel, what does he do with her? Because he puts her to bed very sweetly. You know, she passes, and then he goes downstairs and doesn't tell them what he did, and he doesn't have the body with him. Like, do they just leave it there? Right?
Well,
yeah, I don't know. I did not think of that.
I do like the idea of like every door contains a new plot line, because very literally, and you're gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna be this obnoxious. This episode is a locked room mystery where it's like, who shot the guy? I don't know. It could be anybody, which is like the literary trope for behind that door is a storyline that you know nothing about.
I mean, you are not incorrect. And then we close on, which I do think is cute, when Wesley's like, you don't find me especially paranoid, do you? And Angel says, not especially. And he says, oh, thank God, I was worried, which I think is like a very cute. We really like Wesley's season 1. They surely did not know what to do with him. He was slipping on banana peels all the time. And as Carlos in our Patreon Discord always says, he's like, the drinking game with Slayerfest is now, Ian mentions that Wesley falls 3 times in the episode She, which is my most hated episode of this show. The terrible episode. He literally falls 3 different times in like a whoa kind of way, which is stupid. So I'm really glad that in season 2, they immediately seem to be like, he needs to be a little bit more confident and like capable because he's part of this team, which they also do with Cordelia really quickly. But she was never like not smart.
Yeah.
It is wild to me. I know that, you know, obviously we're focusing on season 2 in this go round, but I was like, it really does feel like the distance they crossed between Goofy Wesley to season 5 Wesley, and same for Cordelia in her run, like it happens really fast, right? Like it's not just me being like, these seem like completely different people, but it's
Cordelia. I do feel like the development was there only because like season 1, she's more like mean girl, bully, slowly helping. And then in Prophecy Girl, she's helping them crash. You know, she's saving Miss Calendar and Willow.
Yeah.
And Wesley for me does feel like a little bit of a rewrite. But I know some people they think he has the best character arc. And I do like his arc.
Oh, I'm one of those people. Absolutely. Because they definitely, they gave him.
I love his arc so much too. But to go back to Cordelia, I think a lot of credit needs to go to Charisma.
Yeah.
And her acting, because there's this one scene after Jenny is killed in season 2, and Buffy's like, Cordelia, would you drive us to Giles's place? And the way Charisma delivers the of course
is
so beautiful. And that's when you know it's so easy to play a bitchy character, but to play a bitch who has a strong heart, and that all goes to charisma. So I agree with you. I'm going to say that I think Cordelia took a while to get to where she's at the end of Angel, but I think you don't notice it as much because of charisma's acting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or approach to the character.
Yeah. And even like her cute, like when she's like, oh, we're not moving in here. I can't. She says that the place gives her the heebie-jeebies. She's like, I don't want to be here anymore. And Angel's like, we're moving in. And she's like, good, a little throw pillows. It'll be like home. Like she just like rolls with it. Love it.
Well, and like even like the first episode of Angel season, 1, episode 1, where she's here like, hey, you're a vampire. And he's here like, no, that's just R2. I'm from Sunnydale. We have our own. That line could have come across really bad, but again, it was the way charisma did it. So,
I mean, I think we talked about this in the Becoming live stream, Dayspring, but like a lot of the lines, like Buffy's whole monologue with her mother, a lesser actor, that would have seemed fucking stupid, right? Saying like, I have to save the world again, and making it actually like land and be emotional. That's not easy because like out of context, that sounds stupid, right? But it's not stupid in context. It works.
We've already seen another actor take on the Buffy role and see it fail miserably. Christy Swanson.
Is it Eliza Dushku? Sorry, I'm on Ian's podcast. I shouldn't say anything.
Nick, so rude.
Nick, I love the shade here. I don't think, by the way, Eliza or Sarah did their characters any justice for that body swap.
I mean, I think one did a way better job, or one did a more 5x5 job.
Okay, listen, that last scene in that episode, yes. But like, I don't know. Anyways, that's another episode for another day.
Agreed.
So now that we are at the end of the episode, Nicholas, what was your favorite scene?
The final scene with Judy makes me cry every single time.
Dayspring?
Yeah, I'm going to say it. I just think like so much comes in that ending scene. It's beautiful. It's emotional.
Nick?
It's the Jesus to Judas moment where she realizes she's fucked up.
Can we coin that term going forward for another episode?
And he looks at her like, I remember what it's like to be a human. And, it's cool. We're all just trying to figure it out.
I mean, for me, it's the end, because I don't think I would love this episode as much if we didn't get that end. What was our favorite? I know there aren't a lot, but favorite outfit of the episode, Dayspring?
I think Cordy's top. I think one of the Nicks mentioned it earlier. I mean, it's Cordy. Cordy all the way. Although David Boreanaz in every scene, especially the Rebel Without a Cause scene at the observatory, is so hot. I was like, wow.
Yes.
Like, so handsome.
Yes. Correct. Nick G, what was your favorite outfit?
Oh my god, that like gorgeous little 50s number she's wearing when she is in the room and she's like, oh, I'm just the maid. I'm like,
all right,
you look amazing. That is ready to wear.
Okay, but to be fair, that's why I was confused and thought it meant the outfit, because
I will absolve you later, but I'm just saying.
It is a really
very obvious she wasn't a maid, and the color was not about the flowers on her dress, Ian.
I know. Nicholas, what was yours?
It definitely has to be the outfit that the Thessalac demon is wearing. No, I'm just kidding. All three of those, honestly. I love Cordy's top, and I love Rebel Without a Cause, so I'm obsessed with the fact that they recreated his look down to, I mean, that the arm on the knee as he's smoking and everything like that. But as the other Nick said, I am also a huge fan of Judy's dress in the beginning. Not the one at the end when everything goes down, but the first one when she's pretending to be the maid. I think it's beautiful.
So I'm going to go with, I actually have two. I do the Rebel Without a Cause scene. Dayspring, I agree so much with you. It really works for me. But because I noticed in the first episode, they put him in a weird, it's not like a leather jacket, but it's like clearly a different one. And it's really like, it fits terribly. Like it looks like, I think I said it looks like the BoJack Horseman, like two kids in a trench coat. Like it's so big on him. And it's not like he's like this like tiny twink like he was in season 1. He's like got muscles, but it's like baggy on his sleeves and it's horrendous. They give him a way better fitting like leather trench coat in this episode, which I think is more like what he has moving forward. Like it better. That's my honorable mention. What grade do we give this episode, Dayspring?
I'll give it a B+.
All right. Nicholas?
A.
Nick G?
B+.
I give it a B. Well, I mean, we were all close. I was the harshest grader. I think that's consistent with Angel episodes. I usually am. Thank you all for joining me. Look at you guys. This was our first like episode with just the new co-hosts.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, my babies.
Hey, BFF.
Yes. So thank you all for doing this. Thank you all for listening. I'm actually like pretty happy and excited to be getting into season 2 of Angel. If you want to find us on social media, you can follow Slayerfest98 at SlayerFestX98. You can find us on all podcasting platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Feel free to subscribe and please give us a good rating. And if you want to support us, you can find us on Patreon, where we have a ton of bonus episodes, Zoom calls, and more that will be revamped come July. I said June last episode. Haha, just kidding. Meant July. And if you want to follow me, I'm at Ian X Carlos. Nick G, where can everyone find you and the con that you're helping to throw soon?
Yeah, I realize this. So I'm not much of a personally active person on the internet because most of my efforts are going into at Geeks Out. Geeks Out is the nonprofit that produces at FlameCon. So that is, if you see something that has come across those profiles, that's me.
That is how Nick and I fell in love. We met working for Geeks Out together, which feels like a fucking 100 years ago, which kind of it was.
I don't know how it could be when we're only 17 years old.
You know, you're right. Nicholas, where can everyone find you and your YouTube channel?
You can find my YouTube channel on YouTube at Nicksaysboo. You could also check me out on social media on Twitter and on Instagram, also Nicksaysboo. And if you want to support, you could check me out on Patreon, also at Nicksaysboo.
The branding is fantastic.
That's right.
I gotta say.
Right.
That is the only reason I have an X in both Slayerfest and in my handle, because like it was already taken. So I just added the X in, and then I was like, well, gotta keep it for everything. So now I use it for every dumb thing.
There you go.
Dayspring, where can everyone find you and the podcast you host?
Yeah, so we're at Power of X-Men on Instagram and YouTube and all podcast platforms. We have a great episode coming up with Stephen E. Gordon, who was one of the lead character designers and directors on X-Men Evolution. So we're excited for that. And we also have a wonderful conversation with Emma Dumont, who played Polaris on The Gifted, and Lenore Zan, voice of Rogue, where we talk about the many problems in the state of Florida, including LGBTQIA+ rights. And that should be coming out this month for Pride.
Oh, I love that. All right, everyone. Well, yes, happy Pride. And we'll see you all next time. Bye.